Welcome to Creating the Vibe. You are a STEM school. Now what? We are Midway Middle School. I am Amy Cawood, the principal of Midway Middle School. I have with me Kevin Clinton, who is my assistant principal and our STEM teacher. And I have Miss Katie McKee, who is our 7th and 8th grade science teacher.
Hey.
All right, we are going to start with a look back at our STEM journey. Our STEM implementation started 4 years ago. Our feeder school, Midway Elementary, became a STEM school, and we decided that we need to follow in their footsteps because we did not want their students coming to us and us not doing STEM projects and be a STEM school with them. We established a STEM committee, which was the driving force of our school-wide implementation. On this committee was me and our 2 science teachers. We are a very small school of only about 200 students. Our librarian helped with our journey. She was in charge of contacting and setting up guest speakers that came in the building pre-COVID and talked to our classrooms about careers. And we decided we needed to tie a lot of our 8th grade stuff to careers for our STEM. So we began by doing STEM Fridays. We dived deep into STEM professional development with this as well to figure out what kind of PBLs we wanted to do, how we were going to connect it with all of our subject areas and get total buy-in from all of our teachers. The guest speakers that came in helped tremendously with our careers, and we then tied our guidance counselor in with our STEM program as well, dealing with careers. We revamped our STEM projects to connect to standards and to real-world problems. To establish our school-wide buy-in, I gave our teachers of all subject areas control of what they did in their classroom on STEM days. We presented our PBLs for each grade level, and each grade level has a different PBL. And then each academic subject area is in charge of creating their own subject and how they were going to connect it to that PBL in their classroom. And that's how we got complete buy-in from our faculty. We didn't just present the project and said, here you're doing this and here you're doing that. They got the option of choosing and creating their own classroom project for their subject area.
Hi, I'm Katie McKee, and I'm the 7th and 8th grade science teacher. I wanted to touch base on the professional development real quick. When we first really dived into STEM, I didn't even know what a PBL was. And I was part of the TSIN Rural Collaborative in their inaugural year. And that really introduced me to what a PBL was and how you planned it and the purpose and the meaning of that. And after understanding that, it changed our STEM days, because our STEM days started with, let's just make something fun. Let's just have them build, not really giving them a problem. I didn't know what I was doing at consciously planning. So by looking at that PBL and then reaching out even further to different books, and now with COVID, there's so much online. TSIN, I've done the coding, but UT, East Tennessee STEM Hub, all of the STEM hubs offer great PBLs that are quick and easy for you to access. So I highly encourage you to kind of look outside of your district and see what is out there, because that helped me a lot with my conscious planning. Some of the, after we had about 2 years into STEM, our high school science teacher and myself we were actually at the TSIN Summit, and we attended a session on girls coding. And we were sitting there and we're like, we should do this. And then we realized we don't know ton about coding, but we wanted to offer all kinds of STEM discipline. We were taught, I'd always ask her about different girls that I had in middle school, and she'd be like, yeah, they kind of just kind of bottomed out and they didn't really interested in science when they get to high school, which is what we see happen. So we wanted to see if we could keep a connection of girls that were interested in science in middle school, would keep it in high school to kind of help them career-wise in the future. And so we started a girls STEM club, and that was, I could talk for a whole hour on that. So I'll just tell you, it's amazing. The girls are amazing. It's just changed my life. It's changed their life. It's awesome. But then we also had guys reach out and say, well, if the girls have a STEM club, we want a STEM club too. So then the following year, we started a guys STEM club. We did not want to combine them because we saw such girls' confidence in the girls STEM club. We didn't want to bring guys and change that dynamic. We also discovered that we weren't finishing our projects in the 2 hours we were after school. So we started having them come in the morning, and it turned into just early morning time where they can just code different robots. They can build different projects. We had the 3D pins that they could use for a couple of weeks. And it was really unstructured time, and they loved being able to just play with all of the different purchases in STEM that we have had. So having that before school time, I specifically try to focus a lot on the coding because we don't have a ton of coding time in school, and I find that important. So I always try to make them have a coding challenge in the morning at some point. Our funding, a lot of people always ask, well, where'd your money come from? Where'd this? Well, we have reached out to businesses and just asked and told them all the great things we were doing. And then we have that, and they just want to help and they want to fund stuff. Any grant that we have found, we try to write and ask. We don't get them all, but we get more than we probably think that we will, just because they're there, and why not spend a few hours working on a grant for something that we want? One thing that I really wanted to talk about was that we purposely reflected on the STEM designation checklist. So we did not think, all right, we're going to be a STEM school or we're going to go through this journey. We, a year in advance, went through the checklist as a STEM committee, and we looked at what we were doing really well and what we were not doing really well and how we could change that year before we even started the application process and the portfolio. And that made a difference because we saw what we were doing great, and then other areas we could have improvement. We also, the sustainability, where if how we were going to be around for 10 years, how our STEM was, how our school was going to be. It wasn't something we were just doing to get the banner. We wanted it to sustain, and we wanted it to grow for as long as our school was here. After purposely looking at that and planning, we went through the designation process, and we became a STEM school last spring. Our goal, sitting down in those 5 months that we were off with COVID, is we really talked about, we wanted to expand our PBLs, and we wanted to expand it with community partnerships. We want to build our PBLs around who we can bring in and maybe what challenges they could offer us. Maybe something a problem we could help solve for them and that we could turn around and present to them. And that has just taken the PBL to a whole new game by bringing in those community partnerships. Of course, our first project this year was mask design, because we are encouraging, obviously, good hygiene, social distance, and wearing our masks to stay safe. So the first advice that we can give you is that we want you to pick a direction and go all in. Don't try to do everything in a little bit here, a little bit there. Decide what you want to do and go in. So what's your curriculum going to look like? Do you have certain standards that you want to try to cover? That is something that we looked at our standards in science, in social studies, in math, in language arts, and what project could kind of connect all of them. And we didn't want to overlap projects, and we wanted to build, because anyone that teaches middle school knows that sixth graders are a completely different animal than eighth graders. And we wanted to scaffold those lessons and those projects for them also. It's a lot easier if you're not creating a new PBL and a new project. I mean, it's so much work if you can just make them better each year versus starting blank every single project. What was our end game? What do we want our projects to look like? What was our goal for what kind of problems do we want them to solve? What materials did you want to use? Again, we tried to scaffold. Sixth grade started simpler, shorter focus. By eighth grade, our whole day projects were complicated designs, budgets, and it just expanded from there.
How would you like your classrooms and school common rooms to look like? I have to say, when we do STEM days here, we use our whole building, from our gym to our gym foyer to the cafeteria to the hallways to classrooms, even outside areas. Every aspect of our building is used on STEM days. We had a goal that we wanted to change our classrooms with this process, and we've been fortunate enough with grants and money that we have received that we've been able to. And we have goals for the future that we'll get to in a little bit later in this presentation. But we wanted kids to be able to work in groups. We wanted them to be able to work independently. We wanted them to have the space and the materials needed in order for us to excel with our PBLs the way we wanted and expected them to excel.
Hi, I'm Kevin Clinton. I am the STEM teacher. I have 3 classes every day, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And this is my first year in doing STEM. So the 2 ladies that I'm with are experts at it. So it was definitely a learning curve trying to put this together. But one of the biggest things that we did was to buy hands-on products. You'll see that at the end of the slideshow. We use a lot of circuits. We have enough where only 2 to 3 students will work with them at a time. So that would be important. One of the other things that we did, and I don't know if we did this on purpose or not, but our 6th grade STEM classes are divided by boys and girls. And having an all-girl STEM class has freed up that class to a lot of exploration inside the classroom. And that worked out very well. And then we have the all-boy class, which you can imagine would be an all-boy class. So I mean, it's a definitely high energy classroom. So having them work on stuff that involves their imagination and their hands is always a good thing. When I first started teaching, I had no idea. I'd spent 21 years teaching social studies. So I just made one curriculum to get through the first year because I needed to be comfortable with what I was teaching. And so this first year, I knew it wasn't going to work in subsequent years. Because the kids that are in 6th and 7th grade will be exposed to that stuff the next year. But just to get my feet wet, I kept everything the same, and I figured out what worked and what didn't work. And in this upcoming year, after being able to evaluate what we did in the classroom, we've got a plan that the 6th grade will focus on energy, our 7th graders will focus on engineering, and our 8th graders will continue a focus on career and college readiness, which goes hand in hand with what happens in our guidance classrooms.
The most important thing when you get started is you must have some kind of goal in mind. Your school needs a goal, each grade level needs a goal, and each classroom needs a goal. We all know every teacher in your building is different. Some are going to love STEM days, some not so much, and some you will have to work harder on getting their buy-in. But if you can present your future, what you are aiming for and what you want your school to be in 4, 5, 10 years, that will help get your classroom and teacher buy-in. So make sure you have goals set in mind.
I'm going to give you a second to read that quote, and I'll tell you what it means to me. When we first started coming in here, if I looked at the entire STEM program, would have been very, very difficult to take that first step in the classroom. And I'll use our 3D printers as an example. There are different levels of success with those 3D printers. I had no experience with them when we started. If I had looked at the entire picture, we would never have got those printers up and running. But printing a blob of filament was our first success, and then being able to print the first things was huge, even though they were simple. And the more we used it, the better we get. So take that first step, make yourself uncomfortable, do things that you don't think you can, and if you fail, that's all right. You just keep moving forward and you keep trying hard.
So designing your PBLs around a standard. That was, again, the game changer for us. If I was going to give you a suggestion on designing a PBL, start with one a semester, a big, purposely planned PBL that is going to connect to your standards. Everyone in the team has input in the PBL. The worst thing you can do is go into a teacher or a language arts teacher and say, I want you to build this. You're going to have pushback. But when I present, I am very blessed with some great teams to work with. Hey, what do you think about this idea? I really want to talk about my standard is earthquake structure, and specifically they have got to know how the different wave characteristics affect a structure. And my language arts teacher can take that, and she makes them have to do research different earthquakes and do a 3-point Venn diagram that compares the 3 different earthquakes. And she tells me she loves the challenge of connecting the PBL to her standard. Another example would be, in math, in 6th grade, they did a designing a baseball. We had a guest speaker connected to that. And then they took and they talked about the geometry of a baseball field and versus even a softball field. So there's always to connect that, all the standards. Again, our goal was connecting a guest speaker to our PBLs, and that has changed because we have that real life example. In fact, even with our earthquake structure, we had a professor from UT who talked to us about earthquakes and his journey to be a professor in geology. And he actually wanted us to reach out to him and share after the fact, and he wanted to see our designs and why we design things our way. And that was really cool because he wanted a follow-up because he was so interested in what our PBLs were.
In the STEM classroom, you just really need, if you're a very first year STEM class and you're opening up that, keep it simple, keep it focused. As you get through the school year, opportunities will open up so you can branch out and try to do more and more and be more creative and more hands-on. But you really need to put some thought into, if you're going to spend some money, go ahead and buy as many hands-on things. Ask people what works. If you have any questions about what works in this classroom, I can send you pictures. But you really need to think about that as we're growing. This next year, our thoughts are now to differentiating between 6th, 7th, and 8th grade and coming up with those curriculums that match to give them that opportunity to have different things happen each year that they come into STEM.
With STEM enrichment, and that comes directly off of the TSIN designation rubric. We were already doing the STEM clubs, which I've told you before, just was a game changer for me, and our morning coding and robot time. Other enrichments is we really wanted to connect with careers and bring in people that worked with things they've talked about and things they were building. Field trips. COVID has hindered a lot of activities and things, but it has also been a great asset to our school. The Zoom calls that we have had, we never would have had because we would have just had people coming in that were local that could have visited our school, and now we are Zooming with people all over. And then Family STEM Night, we changed our Family STEM Night from where we just had activities for the kids to come in, to when we do a Family STEM Night now, we have maybe 6 or 7 stations of activities, and then we'll have 6 or 7 businesses that have come in, and they have come in with different activities and things for people to do STEM. East Tennessee STEM Hub has come in and helped us with STEM night. So that was awesome for us to have local businesses, and local businesses gave us giveaways. We did drawings. We connected it to a food drive, and our kids brought food in, and they got extra raffle tickets for cans of food they brought in. So it was a whole great night that we have expanded on. And this is just some of our pictures from we've done in STEM Club. Again, we try to everything from technology. Those in the top left are nameplates that we had a material science student from UT come and teach our STEM Club how to use CAD design. Also with Enrichment is that we have incorporated all our STEM school-wide into even our self-contained special ed room, and we have a student in there who is just fascinated with a 3D printer. We've moved a 3D printer in there, and for one of our PBLs, he was in charge of printing. He knew how to go over, start the program, run the printer. He'd go do his work. He'd come back to the printer. He'd take the object off of the printer, restart it. So he knows and loves that, and so we're incorporating STEM in every classroom in our building.
All right, reaching out to local businesses. Do not be afraid to ask. You will be amazed at the funding you will receive or the donations you will get. So don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for donations. We this year, Ms. McKee compiled a letter and Googled large corporations around us, and we've sent that letter out to those corporations. And UCOR is one group that we sent it to, and they donated $2,500 towards our STEM program, and we are using that to buy more collaborative desk seating for our regular classrooms. So don't be afraid to ask. I would suggest that you get a letter together and send out and just mail it, and you won't get responses from many. We have not got responses from many that we've sent out, but the ones you do, it will be great, and you'll find good use for that money. You want to reach out to other STEM schools that have their designation. Like I said, we got some help from our elementary, which is our feeder school. We also have another high school in the county that is a STEM school, and I have reached out to the principal there quite a few times. So don't be afraid to reach out. Reach out to your local Chamber of Commerce. They have lists of businesses and addresses that you could have. There's many people out there that want to help. We have been fortunate this year, and a guy by the name of Scott Bacon, he is a wonderful man. He works for Tennessee Pie Consulting. He has many contacts. He's been associated with coupon book sales before with Knox County, and we got introduced to him in Roane County a few years ago when we started doing coupon book sales. But he has seen what we are doing as a school STEM-wise, and he has been a miracle worker for us this year, setting up our Zoom calls and finding individuals to do Zoom calls with for our STEM days this year. We've had everybody from the lead engineer from Richard Childress Racing Zooming with our 8th grade, a lead guy from the Tennessee Smokies. We've had a lead guy from Pyro that does all the fireworks shows, Boomsday, and the Winter Circle celebrations at NASCAR races. He has been wonderful for us. So we would like to thank Mr. Bacon for all of his efforts with us this year. It's been great.
All right, that's my part. This is obviously our first year having the STEM lab, as we mentioned before. Really, you need to, I'm not an expert when it came to science, so I relied on Miss Nickel and Miss McKee to help me get started. So build those relationships if you're not comfortable with the STEM part, but just realize that you have to get started, and using your resources and talking to people in the building will definitely help. I can't tell you how important it is to have good leadership. Miss Cawood was all on board. Whatever I asked for, she had some questions, and if she thought it was a good idea, we moved forward. And almost all of my ideas are good ideas, so she didn't have a problem saying no too many times. And we got the kids mostly. If you get the kids involved, they will not let you rest until they see some sort of results on what they're working on. So our first thing was to work on the desk in the classroom so that we could be more collaborative. Obviously, dealing with COVID, we needed to be able to spread apart on the tables. That was really difficult. So we looked up and we found some desks and some chairs that were reasonably priced, and that was their find. And then again, we went to Miss Cawood, and she made it happen. Uh, Fortunately, we were able to have that money to do that. So make sure that you try to get everybody involved. We have a laser printer, which you're going to see a video of here in just a second. I would highly recommend it. Changes. The kids cannot take their eyeballs off of the laser engraver when it's running. They all want to work on it. I have a line that I have in class that they line up so that they can print their next project. It is super easy to use, and it is really cheap. It's about a $300 purchase. And my goal next year is to add 2 to the one that we have, so we have plenty of room for everybody to print.
Okay, we've seen that. Oh.
All right, just real quick, I have a friend who works at Nike. We make bottoms of tennis shoes just in design, and not everything has to be high tech. So it took them a couple days to make sure they used their geometric patterns on the bottom of the tennis shoes to make those things happen. We really, I cannot push you enough to get the circuit boards that you can see the students holding on the right. And we also have some remote control cars that they have to build from scratch. You see the jumps and the cheers in the classroom, and they get those things finally to work and to move around the classroom. This is a big part of what happened this year. When I came in, this was the old computer lab. You'll see a video here in just a second. We had the old power columns in the classroom. We had big green tables. We had the typing chores up on the wall. And when we first came in, we definitely talked about changing the vibe of the classroom. We wanted the kids to come in. We wanted them to be excited when they walk by the classroom. So when we made simple changes at first with like the lighting, using the LED lights and the strobe light, I kept the lights off in the classroom on purpose when we were not in the room. So as they moved about the building, they saw what was going on in the classroom and they wanted to come in. So make sure that you do what you can, and this is what it looks like.
After a lot of hard work, I am happy to show you the things that we changed in our classroom, but let's start at the beginning. We were a computer lab with those big honking poles and those big desks. It was hard to move around in the classroom and do groups. After we took over the classroom, we had the kids do research, and this is what their vision was, and we were able to make it happen little by little, step by step to our classroom. They were able to move those desks around and create and to build. We were able to bring in guest speakers via Zoom. We were given 3D printers, which was a struggle at first to get them up and running. But over time, as we learned more and more about them, we were able to create beautiful productions such as this Dragon Zord and this flexible giraffe that actually moved and stood. And the kids were really excited about printing those things. Our students did the research on what kind of seating that they wanted. Our TSIN grant helped provide money to help buy these things, which completely changed the feel of the classroom. We were able to remove the poles through our maintenance department, And this is what our classroom looks like today. It was a long haul, but we did it one step at a time. We also added LED lights to the glass whiteboards, which changed the entire feeling of the classroom.
Is have the students involved in the process. What do they want to do? What problems do they want to solve? How do they want to communicate the results? Do they want to make videos? Do they want to make Google Slides? What if they had to sit in this classroom all day? What do they want to sit in? What do they want it to look like? And that has changed kind of our whole school thought process because we want the kids just leading the charge. Don't be afraid to ask for help. From the 3D printers to just how things are going to work together, that the greatest asset is being able to reach out. I have found a love on Twitter of being able to just reach out to people and be connected that way. Start small and then build on them. Try new things, even things that you're not sure of. You want to go ahead and just try them, and you're going to fail. But in my experience, the kids can figure anything out. I just tell them, this is what we have. I don't know how to use it. You guys go for it, and they love it. And then connect with your community. Our community has been so supportive of us, and we've just had so much support from them. If we had a do-over, make sure that you have stock your inventory with so much hands-on learning. You will not realize how many straws and tape you will go through. Just when you think you have enough, you don't. So overstock on hands-on material and make sure you have your teachers involved in the planning. Don't just leave for 1 or 2 teachers to do all the planning.
If we had to do it over again, I would like to have visited more STEM schools that are similar to us in size and demographics, just to get an idea of things they're doing, so that we could relate it more with our building and our students. Don't be afraid to splurge on the good, expensive stuff sometimes. It is well worth it, and it's well worth it when it's working correctly and you're not having to worry about getting something fixed. And remember, it doesn't hurt to ask. So 3 of our nicer 3D printers came from our CTE supervisor for Roane County. He asked if we needed anything. We have made a supply list that we keep on hand, and we keep adding to it, and we keep sending it to him. So he gets us what he can when he has extra grants and extra funding, but 3 of our nicer 3D printers came from our CTE program. Our future goals are to expand our collaborative classroom design, build a wide STEM curriculum. Our big future goal is to transition our library space into a makerspace area. That actually was the first room that I wanted to transform, and then we got our STEM accreditation, so we said, well, let's just change our computer lab, because let's be honest, middle schoolers know more about computers than we do nowadays. So we just changed our computer lab into our STEM lab, but we want to take on our library space next and get it more user-friendly with makerspace material. We want to create a hub for our business connections for all middle school and high schools in our county. Mr. Clinton is going to be in charge of this connection and creating this hub. And my ultimate goal is to hire a full-time STEM teacher. Mr. Clinton is my part-time assistant principal and my part-time STEM teacher. So I would love to have him as my full-time AP, of course, funding allowed. We all know how that works in the counties. And also have a full-time STEM teacher. These are just some pictures of how our collaborative desks that we bought are working in the classrooms. This slide speaks for itself. These are our numbers, what we've bought, what it's cost, and we hope to add to it. Here is our contact information. Please feel free to reach out to any or all of us. We would love to have people come in our building when we are not on COVID protocol and just tour and see what we've done. We are welcome to emails. Please don't hesitate to ask for help. And let me, as the principal, just say one more time, please get total school buy-in. Preach to your teachers that we are here for the students. They're learning. We want our future to look bright. And exploration and STEM is part of that bright future. So just please encourage your teachers that they are here for the students, for their learning, for their future, and get that buy-in. Thank you for your time. We hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It better have recorded.